Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome everybody to the October the 6th meeting of the Franklin Town Board. According to that clock, we're 2 minutes late getting started, but this is the official time right here. We're on time. So, as I said, I'll call it to order. And the first item is the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Vice Mayor Burley first.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ladies and gentlemen, the first item that we're going to handle is an adoption of tonight's agenda, the proposed agenda. And I'll ask if there are any additions to be made.
Mr. Mayor and Town Board of Aldermen, I would like to request that we have an addition to the agenda tonight, and that would be discussion of ownership and maintenance of the Blossom Town.
Yeah, motion to approve. Okay, all in favor? Any further adjustments to the agenda tonight? All right, we'll adopt the budget as presented. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the approval of the September the 2nd and September the 15th board minutes.
I make a motion that it approved.
In addition to subtractions, all in favor? All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have a declaring a public hearing at 7:05 for a rezoning petition for one parcel on Highlands Road. Mr. Setzer, will you give us the executive summary, please? Yeah.
Highlands Road, correct?
Yes.
Okay, for you tonight, you have a rezoning petition to rezone one parcel on Highlands Road from R1 to C3. This parcel is, if you're familiar with the Highlands Road, is the property that joins where Bilo Shopping Center is, and they're just requesting to go from R1 to C3, and which is sufficient because it's budding C3. The parcel is 3.2 acres, and see, you'll also see in your package, you'll see the planning board recommendations and my staff comments on the parcel. And at the previous planning board meeting, they did approve or recommend the approval of this rezoning. Just so you know, this parcel was checked. It's fairly steep, but even with the steep grade of the property, it still would, even with the setbacks, meet the minimum lot size requirements for C3. That's it. Yes, that's a.
I have two people signed up. Mr. Van Hook, somebody threw an arrow. Are you going to be the first speaker? Or?
Sure, why not?
Okay, well, let's come right ahead. Welcome.
First of all, just thank you for giving us a chance to speak on this. I reside at 242 Fox Ridge. I'm on the south side of the corner of that property. We actually overlook it toward the Highlands Road. One of the reasons we bought there was because of the natural surrounding terrain there with the trees. It's got good oak wood stuff. I understand the reason for rezoning from a financial standpoint, and don't blame them at all. Well, we were just asking for on behalf of the neighbors if they would consider the possibility of a protective area on that property of 80 to 100 feet setback to leave some of the natural forestation to allow us to have a buffer zone for sound and visual on down the road, because that's one of the reasons that we bought there was for the seclusion in town. We looked at the taxes. Fox Ridge pays about $20,000 in taxes, and about $6,000 of that is on the crest of that hill, of which the privacy is a factor that adjusts that tax base, I'm sure. And what we're asking for is just a consideration that there could be some protection left there to protect us from the commercialization, the traffic, and the sound. Because if it is developed commercial, we don't know what could be there. It could be anything from a nightclub to a knitting shop. So it could be a sound, a light, a traffic situation. And the neighbors out the hill are much more exposed to that property than I am. So it could be a factor that would be going on down the road. And so we're just asking for some type of a buffer zone there, if at all possible. 80 to 100 feet set back there to protect that portion of it for that consideration. If that makes sense to you, Lance. That's what we're asking for, to protect our value of what we have, plus the solitude of our community in itself. And that's basically, we've got some other neighbors here that have came in the same thing. Property values are reflective of that privacy because the top of the hill is valued higher. Of that $20,000, almost a third of it is paid for those of us that live on top of the hill that abut that property. So it is contingent to that property valuation, I'm sure. Thank y'all.
Mr. Chandler. John Chandler.
My name is John Chandler, and I live at 162 Fox Ridge Circle. And I too appreciate the opportunity to come before you all this evening and speak to you about concerning the property adjoining our property that you all plan on turning into commercial property between Fox Ridge and Bilo's and the shopping center down there. One reason we bought that lot that we live on, built a house, is because the background setting of the trees. They provide a beautiful background. And they also block the view of, we don't have to look at the shopping center. It's nice to walk out on our back deck and look at the trees, you know, in the spring and the fall and during the summer. Also, if there's no zoning in this town, so if that's turned into commercial property, they could probably put any kind of business down on the corner that you would like, which may be a junkyard or a garage or whatever that may depreciate the value of our property. So we'd like to request a buffer zone between our property and what you could originally, you know, cut woods to. I think there's a 10-foot boundary setback or something like that. We'd like to request at least an 80 or 100-foot setback from our property lines so that we could retain some of the trees down there, provide us with the beauty. And also, those trees act as a sound buffer from Highway 64. You'd be surprised how much noise those trees cut out from 64 down there. So that's what I'm requesting is a setback so that we could have some beauty when we walk out on our back deck instead of looking down there at a shopping mall. Thank you very much, and I appreciate you taking this into consideration.
Okay, those are the only two people I have signed up to speak. Is anyone else? All right.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't sign up. But I have owned property, my family has owned property up there since '84.
Yes, ma'am, and you are?
Debbie Land.
Okay.
I live between the two gentlemen. And that property was purchased based on what they have said.
Caroline, by the way, across that property section, just a little bit on the corner. So some of that's already taken care of, that power line that needs to be there. If the deer property, it's a 50-foot line.
You've heard it. We will close the public hearing, and we'll be discussing this a little later in the meeting. All right, a public hearing for the zoning petition. Three parcels on Tracy's Place. Mr. Setzer, if you would come forward and give us the executive summary, please.
We got
We got some surveys on the property, the property owners that he gave me this past week. And, yeah, this parcel these is 3 parcels on Tracy's Place, totaling at 1.14 acres. Tracy's Place is off of Clyde Street, which is off Watauga Street. They are requesting to go from R2 to C2. And originally, when this was brought to the planning board recommended a denial of this property. Their main concern was the access into the property, being it was predominantly residential. And if you'll notice on those surveys, you'll see that they're just an existing right now, just a 10-foot road. That was their main concern, and they expressed that, and I believe that's expressed in the staff comments as well. If you'll also notice on that survey with the property owners, they said that they are planning on widening the road all the way into these parcels to the 30-foot, or well, widening up to I think it's at least a 16 foot, and there's a 30-foot right of way all the way through there. So, being that was the main concern, that alleviated a lot of the questions, the concern that the planning board had.
Is that the main concern?
The main concern was the traffic in there on that little 1-lane gravel road in there for potential for commercial properties. And that was the only access to the properties.
So that takes care of the only concern the planning board had.
That was their major concern, yes. And also, you'll also see the planning board recommendations and my comments in the packet as well.
Any questions of Mr. Sessions by the board? Okay, we have a number of people signed up to speak. Ms. Woodard?
I'm Tricia Woodward. My husband, Doug, and I have lived in Franklin over 30 years. And I think we all know that a great need in this community is affordable housing. And I appreciate what Mr. Dorsey has extended to these families. There's 6 modulars in this community. The families own their modulars, but not the property. And they have worked extremely hard with home improvement. And my concern is if it's changed from residential to commercial, we are losing a very affordable ownership that these families have had. So I would recommend that it stay R2. If it does go to C2, then Mr. Giroux honors his commitment, that verbal commitment that he's given to these families, that it's just being rezoned, but with no intent to have these families who have worked so hard to own these homes to leave. My second comment is, I think I'd like to encourage in the future when there's rezoning, that rather than a sign just be stuck up in front of the homes of people whose first language isn't English, that some translation is provided to the community. So that they're very clear on what the sign is for and what the process is in this county. Because if I hadn't happened to see the sign, a lot of those people were under the impression it was just an election sign or something. So I think that needs to be reevaluated. How do we really make it so the voice of everyone can be heard? Thank you.
Mr. Santos. Welcome, sir.
Hi, my name is Miguel Santos. I'm 15 years old and I'm representing my family. We've just had, we've lived in the neighborhood in Traces for over 9 years, about. We have lived in a very affordable and peaceful place with our neighbors. And my main concern is that if it does become commercial, things may change, and some of the improvements that we have done to our home will start to fade. And I would just really appreciate if it would stay residential for the peace of our neighborhood and our home.
Thank you, Mrs. Santos. Carl Gillespie, Mr. Gillespie.
Good evening to everyone. My name is Carl Gillespie. My wife and I own one parcel that we considered for rezoning tonight. I'd like to say thank you to the folks that's come before me and spoke. I think this is valid points, great points that they've made. My wife and I have owned part of those parcels for many years, and we've acquired some other parcels through the years. Part of those parcels are already zoned commercial, so it just seemed logical to us, since they're all individuals, are all joining, that they all be zoned the same. We have absolutely no plans whatsoever to do anything any different with any of that property ever whatsoever. We feel like that we have a great group of people that rent those 30 lots. We don't have any issues whatsoever. Anytime we have anything that needs to be addressed, they address it. So we want to continue to use that property as is for that in the future. In respect to the town planning board, I don't think they were aware of the substantial right of way that was into that property. And the road that's there is narrow at best. And we were prepared to make improvements, as Mr. Setzer mentioned, to bring that up to a two-lane road. And I think that would satisfy that requirement. I appreciate you taking the time to consider this. Thank you.
Mr. Donald Holland.
While Mr. Holland's on his way out, this would be a good time to remind board members that in a rezoning, we're not to consider any evidence given by a petitioner about what their intended use is. You have to consider every use that might result from the rezoning.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Donald Holland. Thank you for allowing us to come and speak to you tonight. But mine is the furthest property in Tracy's place. I've got the end of the road, which in the beginning was, many of y'all may know, Albert Heading. He had a cabinet shop there, and then Larry Gibson had a cabinet shop for the last business that was in it. And I've owned it for about 5 years, and we don't have any residential on that property. But those are the people that have approached me to rent. All I've had luck with, I've had a garage door company call that would like to use it for warehouse and park their trucks. And I've had a plumbing company that had contacted. And under the current zoning, it's not illegal for that. It is strictly residential. And not to say that they would be there tomorrow if I get it rezoned, but that's the only ones that have contacted over time. And the way I look at my property, it's completely encircled by your map, with commercial properties, except the property. And in a roundabout way, those would be near commercial uses too, and there would be one 28-foot piece on the corner of mine that would join someone, residential property. And as Carl had mentioned, we are in the process of working on the road. If you'll notice on the very end of Trace's place, where you turn on off of Clyde Street, Mary Bird owns a mobile home right there, and the lady there before had planted trees and bushes and flowers for the first 15 feet of the right of way up the hill. And so she's no longer in that property, and I've talked to Mary, the owner, and she said that she's agreed for us to clear whatever we need to do there to widen that, open it up a little bit. So I would sure appreciate a little help if I could on the change it to commercial. Maybe it'd help me get some rental properties in there, and I can clean it up a little bit. But I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Mr. Bruce Holland.
I own the adjoining piece of commercial land just below this property. It's, I've had it 10, 15 years, I guess. And the lot joining this too. I've got a building and a lot, but I have no objections to being rezoned as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
All right, is anyone else? That's all that I have signed up. All right, there seems to be no one else. I'll consider this public hearing closed. All right, let's move right on along. Let's see. Hey, I do have one person signed up for the public comment session. Ms. Leister, is that right? Hi, welcome.
Good evening, my name is Kim Leister and I live on Forest Avenue. And I come to thank you for what you did at the bottom of Forest Avenue. It looks great, thank you. Thank you, Justin. We really appreciate it. There's still more that could be done there, and hope that it will continue. And there's some other properties on Forest Avenue that we hope situations can be addressed. But we have great faith in you, and we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Anyone else for the public comment session? All right, we'll move right along. Mr. Mayor, if you'll hand those down. All right, okay. We're going back now for the board action on the rezoning petition for one parcel on the Highlands Road. Is there any board discussion on this matter? The motion is to approve rezoning petition for one parcel on the Highlands Road from residential R1 to commercial C3. Okay.
Justin, can you tell me what's in C3, what's allowed in C3?
C3 is pretty much just about everything that's not included in industrials. The only thing that's more than C3 is industrial, so it's just about wide open except for landfills and government facilities, and that's about it.
We always talk about the ladder of uses and how it goes from most restricted down here. We can only have single family, or maybe two single family residential, up to industrial, where it's the widest open, and C3 is one rung down from the very top.
What about any
The only buffers, well, unless there might be some more specific businesses, but there's a 10-foot setback automatic on the property line from the building. I think the natural hill is going to be a natural buffer itself. It's going to be pretty steep. You're going to be able to do a lot with it, but I don't know of any specific buffers that comes to mind.
Justin, the zoning for the ETJ is the same as it is for the city.
Mm-hmm.
So there is, I heard that there is no zoning on it, but there is zoning on that property according to our uniform development.
Technically, that piece is not in the city limits. It's one of the odd ones. It's completely surrounded by cities with the road, but it's actually technically in the ETJ. So, that's for information.
Any further from the board? Yeah. All right. Yes, ma'am.
Well, what I was going to say, the nature of the land itself lends itself to the building required near our shopping center, as he said, is steep on that. And the upper part does have that 50-foot right away for power lines, so that really takes away the idea of nothing. So, but I do think most of it, and I don't think it's going to lend itself for price jumps, and the nature of the land, I think, makes to be some kind of business. I have no plans to sell. It's just going on market. It makes it there.
Any further comment from the board? What's the pleasure of the board?
Well, make a motion that, the zoning be approved.
All in favor? All opposed? Was any, one opposed. All right. Okay, the board action on the zoning petition for 3 parcels on Tracy's Place. Any board discussion? Board discussion? Is that C2? C2. Explain the difference between C2 and C3.
There's not a lot of difference between C2 and C3. The biggest things that are allowed in C3 that are not allowed in C2 is like car lots, or I think it's mostly car lots, or like a recreational car lot, something like a motor home, like a camper place. That's really about the only two that comes to mind. It's very short. There's very few in C3. C2 is the majority of everything you see in town, other than Main Street. Main Street C1, Palmer Street C1, but pretty much everything else in town other than the Georgia Road is C3, or C2.
And the only reason that the planning board denied this because of access?
Yeah, the access was the major concern. Of course, it abuts C2, all 3 of the parcels do, on the east side and the south side. But the access of that narrow road, and Mr. Hall and Mr. Gillespie wasn't there today to answering those questions, so the meeting was tonight because of the access, especially coming through the residential neighborhood, because in a sense you would be opening it up to anything in C2. So,
Staff recommendation?
Originally we was denied, but it's pretty much at the, I'm great, I mean, you could approve it now with the access.
I think he's concerned about the emergency question, fire trucks and stuff also. Because commercial, and people getting younger access back in town.
With the 16 feet that we
I want to point something briefly out about that. He would, there is no contractual obligation to do this in what you're doing right now. There could be, if you have been in a process of conditional or special use, this might have been more limited. In special use, you take that thing about whether or not you can say what they're going to do with flip it on its head. In conditional special use, you can say, here's your permit, you can have warehousing, or you can have just this thing and that's it. And it doesn't throw it wide open. You can do anything that's in C2. Conditional or special use zoning also would have allowed something along these lines to say, yes, you can have it. One of your conditions is build a 30-foot wide, I don't know, maybe Power Bill eligible road. You could say, we want to know that we can always get emergency vehicles in there. And so I just want to point out that's not the process that we wound up with, although I think that was where Mr. Sexton and I thought it for those reasons.
We'll say.
All in favor? All opposed?
Everybody voted for it.
Let's raise our hands at the same time.
I'm sorry, I looked around. Oh, okay. Well, I thought I did, okay. All right, so it's, we got 3-2. All right, I have a proclamation for World Habitat Day. I'll read the proclamation and see if there's any board discussion. If not, I'll call for a motion. Between Monday, October 6th is World Habitat Day. Whereas Habitat for Humanity International was born in 1976 in the Conanoia, I think I got that right, Farms, a small interracial Christian community outside of Americus, Georgia. And whereas, I don't like to pronounce that. Cornelia. It's not spelled like Cornelia.
I don't speak South Georgia.
Okay, Cornelia founders developed the concept of partnership housing. The concept centered on those in need of adequate shelter working side by side with volunteers to build simple, decent houses. And whereas Habitat for Humanity brings people together to build homes, communities, and hope, believing that every man, woman, and child has a right to decent, safe, and affordable housing. And whereas Habitat for Humanity builds and repairs houses all over the world using volunteer labor and donations. And whereas with more than 1,500 local affiliates in the United States and more than 70 national organizations around the world, Habitat for Humanity has helped build or repair over 600,000 houses and served more than 3 million people worldwide. And whereas the United Nations General Assembly has declared the first Monday in October as World Habitat Day, a time to recognize the basic needs for adequate shelter in a world where it is lacking for so many. Whereas Habitat for Humanity of Macon, Jackson, North Carolina, joins its affiliates around the world in recognizing and celebrating World Habitat Day in October, drawing attention to the continuing need for affordable housing and inspiring action to address the need. All right, any board discussion? Do I hear a motion to adopt the proclamation? All in favor? A second? Okay, all in favor? Okay. I'll sign this, guys. Thank you.
I might add that Habitat for Humanity just got finished with a new roof on the house and all that, all in front.
Moving on along, I now have a proclamation for the National Disability Employment Awareness Month, and I'll read that. The proclamation is National Disability Employment Awareness Month. Workplaces welcoming of the talents of all people, including people with disabilities, are a critical part of our efforts to build an inclusive community and strong economy. In this spirit, the town of Franklin, North Carolina, is recognizing National Disability Employment Awareness Month this October to raise awareness about disability employment issues and celebrate the many and varied contributions of people with disabilities. Activities during this month will reinforce the value and talent of people with disabilities, add to our workplaces and communities, and affirm Franklin, North Carolina's commitment to an inclusive community. Now, therefore, I, Bob Scott, Mayor of the Town of Franklin, do hereby proclaim October 2014 as National Disability Employment Awareness Month. In so doing, I call upon employers, schools, and other community organizations in Franklin, North Carolina to observe this month with appropriate programs and activities and to advance its important message that people with disabilities are equal to the task throughout the year. Proclaiming this the first day of October, actually it's the 6th day of October. Any more discussion? I'll entertain a motion to approve. Second? All in favor? Is anyone here about this proclamation tonight? That one right now. Bill Van Horn here. All right, it's a letter of support for the Appalachian Trail Conservancy grant application, and I had Bill was going to give a presentation. Copy of that. I can't find mine. I'm sure it's in here somewhere. Okay, this is addressed to whom it may concern. It's probably going to go over to the Appalachian Trail Conservancy in Nashville. It says, I'm writing in support of the Appalachian Trail Conservancy's grant application for the Western North Carolina Trail Connection project. This web-based tool will provide the resources for visitors to explore our regional trail systems and find appropriate lodging and services to make their adventure easy to plan. This important marketing tool will support our natural heritage and outdoor recreation businesses and communities across multiple counties in the western North Carolina region, providing information on how and where to access some of our scenic trails, maps, guides, trail descriptions, and profiles, as well as information for families will support hikers with an interest in a 10-minute stroll to a week-long backpacking or end-to-end adventure. Additionally, information about leave no trace, appropriate land ethics, rules, what to watch out for, and what to bring will assure visitors are planning and preparing in a way that will keep them safe while protecting our valuable natural resources. Our organization, the Town of Franklin, supports this specifically because we believe strongly in the recreational and economic opportunities of the Western North Carolina Trail Connections Project. We hope you will consider funding this project proposal, as it will be an important recreational resource for Franklin, Macon County, and our region. Any comment? Motion? Okay, second? All in favor? And we're not asking to fund it. We're asking this organization to fund it, the Blue Ridge thing. Well, we noticed that. And we're working on that, right? Yeah, we know about that. All right, I'd like to ask the board for permission to advertise one vacancy and one alternate position on the Town of Franklin Planning Board. Justin, do you want to give me an overview of this?
Yeah, we have one member that is, term is expiring, I believe as of this week, and they don't wish to serve any longer. They've served on there for 17 years, and we already have a vacancy as an alternate. Advertise those and get them filled. Okay.
Several years ago, for those who might not know, we adopted a resolution that when there are vacancies on boards and commissions of the town, we advertise it so that anybody that would be interested in serving can have an opportunity to put their name in the hat.
And just these are seats that are in town seats, so you have to live in the city limits.
Live in the city. We've actually asked the news media to just make mention of the vacancies, yeah. But it is on the town website. Any comment? All right, do I hear a motion to give us permission to advertise those vacancies? Make a motion. All in favor? Recommendation to the Macon County Board of Commissioners to reappoint Janet Green to the Town of Franklin Planning Board as the ETJ representative. Okay, Justin?
Yeah, Janet's term is also expiring this week, and I spoke to her, and she does wish to continue to serve as one of our ETJ members on the planning board, but that appointment has to come from the commissioners, being that she's outside the city limits.
Second. All right. All in favor? Update on Forest Avenue, Mr. Setzer.
I almost brought some pictures, but I didn't. If some of you might be aware, Forest Avenue has been a hot topic for a while, and the one parcel with the trailer, or the double wide, it caught fire a couple of years back. It has now been demolished or removed from the property. So that step is completed, and there actually has been a little bit of work on the adjoining property, and hope to have a little bit more on it in November. Some more details and some stuff can happen at that time as well.
Great. Okay. We've heard a lot of great things about that. Thanks for the good work on it. It's great. There's no motion needed on this. This is just for information purposes only. Thank you, sir. All right, we're looking for an amendment to the nonprofit funding pool. Madam Manager, if you will, give us an overview.
It's Mr. Mayor, the Town Board of Aldermen. The calculation error on my end, back at our continuation meeting on September the 15th, we had originally proposed that it would need to be $57 deducted from each nonprofit, with the exception of the Macon County Public Library, which you guys went ahead and deducted that to $2,500, and then the Franklin Garden Club was to come out of beautification. So I'm just asking, requesting the board tonight to consider, we will need to actually, instead of doing $57, we'll actually need to increase that to where $62.50 is decreased from each nonprofit to balance it to the $40,000 that was allotted.
I'm sure the board's not used to such big money items, but I'll call for a motion to approve this.
Make a motion to approve.
$57.62. All in favor? Thank you, ma'am. Okay, we're looking for a presentation from Mr. Brian Birch, who is with JMT Traffic Engineering. Going to be talking about the Franklin parking.
So we have a little bit more here, he's going to step in.
Brian.
Welcome, sir. We're delighted to have you.
This is my tech support.
Justin's getting ready to sit you up. Take a 5-minute break, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, yeah, sure, while we're setting up, folks, we have quite a bit more business to go, you're welcome to study, but we'll take a 5-minute break. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll call us back into order. We have Ruben Moore, who is with JMT Traffic Engineering. And we're going to be talking about the parking downtown, and this will not involve a motion or anything. This is for information.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Again, my name's Ruben Moore. Those of y'all that know me from NCDOT over in Silva, where I worked for almost all my 30 years. Retired at the end of March and now working with JMT Engineering. Mr. Teague worked in Division 14 probably about 14 years ago, and I've known him for a long time, and just went to him because we're both traffic engineers and got an office over in Waynesville now, so glad to serve you in a new capacity. The parking study they did started back in November, I think, when the former planner with JMT was working with town officials, and I believe they delivered that to y'all about May or so. It really happened before my time with JMT, but I've read through the report and I understand y'all had some questions about it, and I wanted to come over here and just maybe do an overview and just kind of do a Q&A once I just get through hitting the highlights of the project. The parking study basically covered a 2-block section of Main Street from Patton Avenue to Harrison Avenue. That's highlighted there with the red border. Just a couple of pictures there where you've got a lot of existing 30-degree angle diagonal parking, and I think probably about 2/3 of your parking is that configuration now. You've got a little bit of parallel parking now, but I did notice that of the existing parallel parking, it typically comes in pairs, so there's not really the hard maneuver of squeezing between two cars. You either pull into the front one or you back into the end one, so you're not currently challenged with having to squeeze in between two cars. But there were several goals outlined between what the town was looking for. I think there was a total of 5 goals. One of those was to definitely not decrease the amount of parking, but to try to increase the parking if possible, the number of parking places in the 2 blocks. Also, there were some traffic safety questions, pedestrian safety. I think there was a talk about slowing some of the traffic speeds down. And this is a cross-section of the final proposed recommended plan, which recommended changing the 30-degree angle parking to 45-degree angle parking. And where you had parking on both sides at 30-degree angles, I was just checking some measurements tonight before the meeting started. These 30-degree angle parking places stick out in the road about 11 feet, and a 45-degree angles space is going to stick out about 15 feet into the middle of the road. And if we were to put 45-degree angle on both sides, which would create more parking places, it would leave about 16 feet or so in the middle of the road, which is insufficient for carrying 2 lanes of traffic. It would leave enough room for 1 lane of traffic, but also would create the possibility of cars backing out opposite of each other and backing into each other in the same lane. So that was the reason that that was not recommended. And we did this extra drawing here. This drawing is not in the parking study itself, but it shows, kind of overlays what 45-degree angle parking spaces would look like compared to 30-degree angle. The 30-degree angle is in the red, and if you look along the curb line, you can see that a 30-degree angle space takes a lot more linear distance along the curb. It actually takes about 22 feet. I measured some of the existing tonight. It's about 22 feet from point to point on the curb for these 30-degree spaces, and 22 feet is what we're recommending for a parallel spot. So it's kind of strange to think about, but a 30-degree angle space takes the same curb space as a parallel parking space. But one way to think about it is, if I think I've got an aerial view here. You can see that this is the existing parking lot in an aerial view. Basically the front end of one vehicle is about where the back end of the next vehicle is, and it's kind of misleading. It looks like they're a little bit longer, but I think that's the shadow effect of the parked vehicles. You've actually got space. The existing parking spaces are kind of what I call high-end or Cadillac spaces, because one of the nice features of your 30-degree angle parking is you can actually open your doors on both sides, and you're not even next to the vehicle next to you. There's the length of the stagger is so great. So that's kind of one of the advantages of a 30-degree angle space. But I think one of the reasons the company was asked to look at the 30-degree angle and consider 45-degree angle was you have an existing ordinance that says all angle parking has to be 45. I'm not sure if that's Main Street or everywhere in town. But the 30-degree angle parking is fairly inefficient as far as the use of curb space. And also it sticks out in the road. Like I said, it actually varies from 13 to 15 feet from what I was looking at. And you could get the same amount of parking and only stick out in the road 9 feet if you were parking parallel. So by going to 45-degree on one side and creating more spaces, and then changing the other side to parallel, you preserve the width of through travel lane in the center of the road while increasing the parking. So the net result of the parking study was that you had existing, I think, 77 parking places, and by restriping according to the plan we presented, it would go to 84 parking places. But that was with diagonal parking on one side only and parallel on the other side. So it did increase the number of parallel parking places. This just shows that with your existing 30-degree parking, assuming that it sticks out, I think, let's see, 15, 24, 13, just sticking out 13 feet, it left enough for 2 11-foot lanes, which is barely enough for 2 lanes of traffic. But if you change them both to the blue lines and you took another couple of feet off, it goes up to 15 feet on both sides. That would just leave the 18 or less feet. Now, I'm kind of fudging on that number because I measured the width of Main Street in 3 places tonight, and I got 48 feet, 47 feet, 46 feet, and 50 feet. Apparently from the east end is the narrowest and the west end is the widest. It's just a very gradual taper all the way down. By the time I got to Iowa Street, it was 50 feet. So I thought that was a little bit unusual. And this cross section here is what our plan was recommending. It's just a typical cross section where if you parallel park, and really 9 foot is a very wide parallel parking place. I've actually seen 20 plus years ago, Brevard only had about 6.5 feet for that same thing. Thanks. Now that I'm about done, I got notes. Let me run through this real quick, see what I forgot to say. So 9 foot is, you could just about open a car door and still have it within your parking place. And then that leaves enough for 12 foot and 11 foot through lanes. And typically your right through lane is a little bit wider because that's where your through truck traffic tends to be. And I think there was some discussion about maybe having a bicycle lane through town. But also typically we would recommend that if your speeds are truly in the 20-mile-an-hour range and your speed limit's 20, traffic I encountered tonight at 6:48 was not particularly close to 20. Yeah, I think it really was. But bike traffic can handle downtown travel speeds really without having a special bike lane. So just by having a pavement marking called Sharrows, it indicates to the cyclist that, hey, you're not unexpected, this is where you would ride. Typically you put Sharrows far enough away from parallel parking to where car doors are not going to wipe out a person on a bicycle. And then the 45-degree angle parking would stick out from the curb 15 feet. And by doing it that way, you got more parking places. Memorize everything I'm supposed to say. And I did bring a copy of the full report, mostly because I was having to read it to get familiar with it. I was familiar with Franklin, so reading that report was like, I know all about this. It's just kind of a new take on town. But are there any questions? I figured tonight was more like a discussion. I guess everybody's seen the report before, maybe several months ago.
Well, I know it's difficult to drive through Franklin. I went through on the left lane this afternoon, and there was 3 vehicles that were sticking so far out in the road that I had to go into the right lane. And the cars got used to wait, so we're not doing any good the way it is now. Especially the pickup trucks, Buick with the fifth wheel attachment to the back, you can't get around it.
Right.
We definitely need to do something.
Do you feel like the Sharrows and the ball outs are going to slow the traffic down to close to 20? Or is there something else we can do?
I don't have any experience with Sharrows slowing traffic down. I really don't think they'll do that. Now, the presence of bicycles would probably help slow traffic down. If it got to be a routine thing that you see a bike every once in a while, if it got to the point where a cyclist was not unexpected. The idea behind Sharrows is they're sharing a lane, which means there's space for both the bicycle and the vehicle. And you can expect the vehicle's going to pass. Or the way I drive on Main Street on my bike in Silva is I go more to the center of the lane, but I make darn sure I'm going as fast as the traffic is. But that's 20 or 25 in Silva most of the time, mostly because of congestion so bad over there. I mean, 23 Business, besides serving the downtown business district of Silva, has also got a lot of through traffic on it. I got a feeling the characteristics in Franklin are more that it's a destination type traffic and probably not nearly as much through traffic as what it carries over in Silva. But then the other part, the curb extensions, I think that would go a long way towards slowing traffic down. And again, the presence of pedestrians is something that traffic normally slows down for. And probably not the time of night. Like, granted, when I was here, nothing's open on Main Street, so it's unexpected to see a pedestrian, so traffic's not expecting to slow down. But if it's a busy time of day, and the time of day where there's a lot of pedestrian activity downtown, I think it would very much slow traffic down.
The worst time is probably sunset, especially this time of year, winter. Cars coming up Mace up the hill, did not see.
Right.
And I mean, one of them almost hit Brendan yesterday in the crosswalk. And he stopped, but she and I knew he couldn't see us, but he was going too fast.
Yeah.
And the chief has done everything you could think of to try to slow people down. I don't know how to get them.
It's amazing when that sign's up there, it says 20, watching out for those brake sticks, you know, when everybody's going slow.
Yes, it's kind of easy to say enforcement, but as traffic engineers, what we want to do is try to build as much physical presence on the roadway that traffic naturally feels the need to drive slower. Just from many years of experience, if we build a fast road or we build a road that you can drive fast on, people will drive fast on it. Just like 107 over in Silva, when that road was built, it was a through road from Silva to Cullowhee. Now it's a commercial district, but it was designed for 60 miles an hour, therefore traffic can drive 60 miles an hour on it, even though the sign says 35.
This may be silly, but I wonder if we put a bulb out further down on the hill itself so whether people cross there or not, I don't know, but at least we have psychological effects for people coming up the hill seeing pedestrians.
Well, the report that we...
It prizes people who have crossed there.
The report we turned in was strictly about parking, but now there's some pedestrian things that were not included in this report that would physically slow traffic down. Now they're pretty serious, like raised crosswalks or speed tables. It's not exactly a speed bump per se, but if somebody's driving 40 miles an hour, they'll swear it's a speed bump because it's like a raised profile and then a depression. So like you go up to cross the crosswalk and then you go down and you come off of it. Or
when you veer off 4 on the highway, you know you're off when you start getting some of these changes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let me ask you, how do you handle snow plows if we were to put those raised crosswalks?
They would have to be very carefully designed. I do know that on the campus of Southwestern Community College over in Silver, they put in some asphalt speed bumps. I mean, these are more like what you find in a parking lot. Yes. And pieces of those are missing, I'm sure, due to snow plows. They're supposed to have kind of a curved ramp going up and then kind of a curve going down. And I would recommend building them out of concrete just so they'd be stronger than asphalt and make them more resistant to snow plows.
The way they did it down in Westminster, they actually used the brick, but they actually used the lower surface. So they dug out, made it, you base across it, put the brick in, so when you're going along, your plow actually dips a little down before it comes back up. So instead of being raised, it's a good way.
Kind of depends on what happens when it comes to the other end of that hole. How does it get up?
It's so close that you don't hardly feel it. Because when you're driving over it, you don't feel it. So
well, I do know that the DOT snow plows and the trucks are getting heavier and heavier. It's gotten to the point of where when they plow the road now, you see a fine powder on the road. That's the asphalt. They're scraping the asphalt off the road basically when they get the ice off. So it's hard to leave anything behind. They'll scrape the paint off, the thermoplastic.
Do they scrape our much through the tank?
In fact, since we have to be kind of careful what we did up there, because it's on our street.
I think even if you wanted to implement this parking plan, you want to have some coordination with DOT.
Well, one of the things that I keep thinking about is because of the speed here on the level part, is because you got to get a run and go at that hill. And a lot of folks do that, and by the time they top that hill, they're thinking they're relieved that they're off the hill, but now they're going 45 miles an hour up through the middle of town. Seems to me like that'd be sort of the place that you need to start to concentrate on to try to get the speed down some would be on town hill.
Yeah, so maybe that first crosswalk towards the top of the hill might be a good place for those curb extensions to start with, because it gives the effect of the road feeling narrower.
Well, and I was even thinking about further on down. I mean,
we've got a lot. There's a lot of room. No one parking. There's a lot of room.
Any further questions? That's good information.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Sir, you're welcome. I saw your next agenda item to talk about it, so I can hang around.
Hang on, we're going to have some questions. This is discussion on restriping Main Street parking. Madam Ness, give us the overview.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Town Board of Aldermen. I just kind of wanted to get some direction from the board where they would like us to proceed as staff. As we're all aware, regardless if you guys do want to move forward with one of these studies and allow us to investigate further, we do need to look at possibly doing something of restriping the main, even if you just wanted to go back and restripe it as it is, because it's basically, there are no lines on Main Street right now. So I would just want to get some direction from the board and get some discussion on what you like us to do.
How hard is it to get DOT permission to change?
I don't know that you really actually need DOT permission to restripe. It depends on what you're going to do.
But
You're going to go
with their plan.
You're going to go build all that.
To do the curb extensions, they want to have at least see the plan, whether or not they officially approve it. I'm not sure they want to approve it. And as far as the way you strike your parking, that is a town jurisdiction item.
So we could go with their plan now.
I think as a courtesy, I'd still touch base just because of the 45-degree parking, you are coming out 2 more feet in the travel lane.
Do we have
Just
to
so-
change the center lane then?
Possibly. No more than a foot or two.
Let me ask the board this, how would the board feel about, it would be sort of a stopgap measure, but at least we could go and get the lines straight right before the leaf season starts and we get the really heavy traffic. We actually had a big pickup truck parked in the pedestrian.
What we want to do maybe, and we're going to do,
Yeah, we're not talking about a major expense, just to describe it's all, once we do something, it's all got to be taken up regardless.
Like I said, I just wanted to get some direction from you guys to see where you want to proceed. I do have 2 price quotes that have come in. One was at $825 and the other one was at $1,260. But at least it would give us a start just to get some visibility on downtown, because like Mayor Scott said, I've noticed several today, included in previous days, there's trucks, cars, people are parking everywhere on Main Street.
Which way, yeah.
That's all one.
That is a liability.
Exactly, in a 90-degree angle.
Yeah.
But you can't get the ticket because they can say there was no line.
I'd say we go ahead and do the restriping.
There's going to be something we're going to have to work on a lot, decide how we're going to actually redo the main. It's going to take a lot more work than what we're doing.
You talking about striking it like it is, or
For right
the
now,
old plan?
yeah.
If you use a 45-degree angle parking on both sides, how much is that at the end of the roadway?
We only have one lane, you said.
About 4 feet on each side, so about 8 foot total.
Take that much more than 30 degrees.
The spaces I measured came out 11 feet on the perpendicular on the existing parking, and the 45 degree, they need to be 15 feet. So that's a 4-foot increase. So if you did 4-foot increase on both sides of what you got now, that's definitely not enough for 2 lanes of traffic. One option you've got would be to try the planned parking arrangement, striking it without doing any of the hard infrastructure like the islands or the curb and gutter. So you just have a painting expense, and then if you didn't like it, it's still, you spend less than $1,000, you didn't spend thousands and thousands.
Yeah, I think that's what we're talking about, is going ahead and do something now just to get the stripes back.
I didn't understand if you're talking about striking it like it used to be, or striking it like we're
I was wondering if we
suggesting.
do it 45 and a 30.
That's why you're here.
You tell us, yeah,
Well,
45
I can't
and a
see for
30.
DOT anymore.
Right.
That would still take 2 more feet according to what he just said, of the
Yeah.
center traffic.
They take one more, yeah. Okay.
Well, if we change what's out there now, we're gonna have an additional expense, because we've got to remove the other stripes. I know they're about gone, but it's still gonna be an expense.
So let's just do what we
We have to
got.
run a machine over our glass.
If we're going to restripe, why don't we just restripe what we got, the way we got it now, spend $800, and then take the course of the winter to try to figure out, how everything kind of slows down, and kind of take the winter to figure out how it really should be.
I feel like we have to do something now, and that's fine.
I think, I'm not ready, I don't think I know enough to decide to change it in any manner.
We can get the prices on
Good, you want to make that motion? Okay, I'm.
Unless there's further discussion.
Authorize town manager to accept the 801 bid and restrike it in a manner similar to what's there now.
I'll second it.
Okay, any further discussion? None, all in favor?
Madam Manager, you have an overview of tax release.
Yes, sir. If we could back up to 8L, the designation of the voting delegate.
Oh, okay. The voting delegate, who wants to suffer through being the voting delegate at the League of Municipalities meeting? You're not going. Look at me. No, you're not. I think let's see, who is going with what gone before? Oh, thank you for volunteering.
I didn't like you.
It's always
while the rest
person
of
that's
us,
never gone.
the rest of us are out on the town, you got to be at all meetings.
That's right.
You are our representative.
Thank you, Madam Manager. We will back you. That was pretty important.
Sorry.
You get a little different, you get a little different grip.
That's right. And you get to vote on things. Okay, the overview of the tax rate.
What I have next, this is from our tax collector. We are requesting the release of real estate property in the amount of $3,957.50. This is just a release on our end. There was no refund involved because come to find out, Orchard View apartments, what's referenced here in your packet, they should be exempt from personal and real property tax.
So they really haven't paid us anything.
Correct. We're just releasing, yes, sir.
Is this the first year they've been taxed? Happened in the past?
I don't know, I'll be honest with you.
Well, maybe it's best not to find out.
It may be.
I move that we release them.
All in favor? John, you didn't need to do the vote on that. Okay, the next item is a discussion on the ownership of the Quasi Mound. And we want to run that by the board here. Madam Manager, we need to discuss.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. What the board and yourself have before you tonight is a resolution discussing ownership of McLaughlin Mound and maintenance of McLaughlin Mound.
All right, should I read this resolution?
Yes, sir.
This is a resolution whereas the ownership of the Quasi Mound shall remain with the town of Franklin. Whereas the deed to the Quasi Mound as written and recorded in October 1946 shall remain with the town of Franklin and shall be preserved for the citizens of the town of Franklin and Macon County. Whereas the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians has requested the town of Franklin to allow them to maintain the mound. Now therefore, be it resolved by the Town Board of Aldermen that the board is open to discussion of maintenance of the Quasi Mound by the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians. The Town Board is honoring the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians' offer of assistance of maintenance of the Quasi Mound. And this will be open for discussion by any member of the board. Any discussion? If not, I will entertain a motion to adopt the resolution presented. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Discussion of a free little library. I want to throw this out for board discussion. I sent you all a photo. We had a photo of the little library. For those of you who don't know, the little library is kind of a national thing where children and even adults can come along, open the door to a little building that looks like a library, take a book out and leave a book, or just take a book out and not leave a book. And the library has had the first one built, and they would like to put it out at the town hall. As I said, this is a national program. Some of you probably heard of it. But we looked at an area, Karen Wallace, myself, and the town manager looked at an area between where the pumpkin sign is, the Pumpkin Fest sign is, and the corner of the old Macon Furniture Mart, having it right there. I know of another one that's being built right now that will be like a timber frame, and they're looking for a place to put it. They hope to get these around the town in different places. discussion?
Has anybody put a big house?
Yes. I'll have to screen it first. No, it's primarily for children, but adults can leave those also. And they're getting quite popular to do this. Any comment?
I've got some concern about that ball there in that alleyway. You know, that, especially at night, you could hang out a little farther down in it, folks dropping sidewalk.
Yeah, it's right on the sidewalk, yeah. The post, if you look at it, probably be about 12 inches from the edge of the sidewalk. So it would be parallel with the sidewalk, the open line. So it's not down the alleyway. It's right there.
Red lighting.
Oh, yeah.
So
It's
that's not
red
a way
light,
those
yeah.
cobblestones.
That's right where the Pumpkin Fest sign is, on the other side of the post, the post closest to the road.
So what's the size of the
It's about that wide, about that high. It looks like a house with two double doors. 6 foot 6? Oh, no, it's something like about 2 feet by 2 feet. It's very small. See it? Oh, yeah. I sent you a picture.
measurements on it?
No, they have lady in the picture.
Mostly children.
Mostly children. It sort of goes along with the Read to Me program and some of those programs for your children. How was it installed? It's going to be on the post.
You know, no expense.
That's what Karen said.
That's what they mostly look like to me, is oversized.
Yeah.
Can I bring my law books up there?
Sure you can.
Nobody even take it.
About 8 boxes.
Before anything is installed, we really need to get Jay up there to make sure that we've not got some lines or cell phone lines or power lines or sewer lines or water lines that impact anything.
I don't think that we've got that problem. I'll get him up there to do it, but it is right parallel with the post that's there now for the pumpkin fest.
So they just want to dig a hole, put a little post in, and that's when they do it.
Looks so big size though.
Yeah. And that depression you got right there.
Yes, sir. We have water squirting out of the window.
I've got meetings, what if it comes full of books and I want to take some?
Well, we'll cross that. It's when we get to it and
We have
probably do away
we
with
have
that.
no responsibility for it, right?
It's not. They will maintain it and they will make that.
Who is they?
Oh, the library. Karen, her volunteer.
I think it's a wonderful program, so I would like to make a motion.
Is there a second? All in favor? All right, let's see, John, Counselor, you have a discussion on the business license order?
I do, Mr. Mayor. I have distributed to you all drafts of a proposed ordinance. Since I gave this to you tonight, I just highly recommend we keep this at a discussion level only. I mean, I don't even know how much discussion we have if you all have not had any opportunity to read it. But I will tell you that the intent of the drafting in this is to basically perform all the regulatory functions that our privilege license tax does now. And we won't make this effective until July 1st when the privilege license tax statute goes away. We won't have that any such thing anymore. So I'm happy to answer any questions you've got about it now, but I would just commend it for your reading and let me know your reactions to it, and we'll look at the passage maybe next month.
So you don't need a motion tonight? Just
No,
discussion on it.
just any questions anybody has.
Anybody have any questions for John before we move on?
I have a question that's not really to do with this, it's going to something with that. And I'm not proposing, there's none going to walk out the door, but what is, can the city levy sales tax legally in North Carolina?
There are local option sales taxes, and I couldn't even tell you off the top of my head what exactly they are. But there are such things.
Okay. So when I got my telephone bill, if you look on it, you're paying Macon County sales tax on your telephone bill. It showed up this month on mine.
Did we don't get a cut of that? The town didn't get a cut of it?
Could look into what, if any, local options that the town has. Interesting.
I was just interested because, you know, we're looking down the road, we want to do things for Main Street. And I noticed in a lot of other cities and stuff, they have certain, what they call them, tax districts. And those tax districts, there's not much, but there's a little bit of money that goes into the upkeep of those areas.
I've heard that Clayton, down in Georgia, has a paper, very
Yes.
successful. Very, very successful.
Greenville stuff, where I get down South Carolina so much, I get all the news down there. It's amazing what they've done to some of these areas. And it's small tax districts in the cities down there.
And I think the kind of historic district you're talking about is possible to do for anybody. It's not, doesn't take a local act, the way of a local option.
Any further? Well, actually, there's no motion needed on this. You may have any questions, comments? Okay, we come to a close here. Want to announce the Pumpkin Fest is Saturday, October the 25th, from 9 until 4. And I'd like to ask all the board members, if you would, to agree to be some judges and master ceremonies and get up there on the stage with all these goblins and all that kind of stuff. And I will not require any costume. Although we would consider it. But in all seriousness, really, I'd like the board would consider being some judges and masters of ceremonies and the Pumpkin Fest. It is by far our most popular event that we have. Also, I left a couple of copies of the stickers of the logo, and I have plenty more coming. So if you need them, let us know. The Chamber of Commerce took several hundred today, said they had requests. Any further business? Go around the table.
You should have had some instructions on there on how to get the tape off the back.
I just don't.
Joyce had to show me.
I can show them if that's scary. Okay.
It's very scary. Yes. Oh, maybe you could remember. Okay, anybody got anything they want to say? Ladies and gentlemen, we hope we have entertained you sufficiently tonight. And you'll all come back again. No further business, we'll stand adjourned to the next meeting. Just,